Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday afternoon. Hope yours is going well, and it's time to get down to business. We have one thing on our minds right now, 26 hours before kickoff, more or less. We are just over a day away from opening our home slate against the New England Patriots. For whatever little bit home field advantage actually matters in a season like this, our home schedule begins tomorrow against the Patriots. And we will very likely, by the time our game kicks off, know that our three divisional opponents have won their games already. The Rams get the Eagles, and the Eagles are very beat up. The 49ers get the Jets, and the 49ers might be beat up, but they're still probably going to win that game. And the Cardinals get the football team. So, very good chance we will know by our kickoff that we need to win just to keep up. Obviously, we all felt great after what happened last week, but things can get re-racked very quickly. We can pull even with the 49ers just like that. The Cardinals can jump us and take the lead in the division outright just like that. So I don't take anything for granted. Don't assume anything, and just know that your emotions can go one way or the other very rapidly with just a single week of action. So, what's going to happen tomorrow night at home against the Patriots? So, real quick, going down the injury report as I try to do every week because this stuff always matters. It's not bad, but I see some things I don't like. The number one thing, the obvious flashing red alarm from this injury report, not just for this game, but this whole season, is Rasheem Green, doubtful to play with a neck injury. And obviously, that's a blow for this game, as it would be for any game. Maybe this game a little less than other games because the Patriots aren't going to pass as much as other teams we play, probably. But I am now concerned about Rasheem Green this whole year because it's a neck injury. You don't know what that means. You don't know how severe it is. You don't know when he's going to get back. You don't know what he's going to be like when he gets back. You don't know if this is something that can linger. So Rasheem Green was a guy I expected to be our number one pass rusher this year, and he's not off to a good start at all. And this was not what I needed to see on the injury report yesterday afternoon. Doubtful with a neck injury. Also doubtful, again, and probably not going to play, is Cedric Ogbuehi, or Cedric O, as I have decided to call him just now. Doubtful with a pectoral injury. Um, Keep that in mind for the rest of this video, because Cedric O was probably going to be our third tackle on run-heavy sets, and we know we like to use those. So keep that in mind as we talk about the game plan going forward. Philip Dorsett, questionable with a foot injury. Even if he plays, don't count on anything from Philip Dorsett, guys. He's not that good of a player. All he has is speed. All Philip Dorsett really is a speedster, and if he has even the slightest problem with a foot injury, that saps your speed and leaves you with very little to hang your hat on as far as being an effective football player. So right off the bat, I can tell you, Philip Dorsett, if we get something from him, great, but don't count on it. Final note, Anthony Rush, called up from the practice squad. I didn't get what I really wanted this week, but I did get what I needed, okay? We tried. We couldn't get Snacks. We couldn't get Marcel Darius. We couldn't trade for Geno Atkins. We couldn't do any of that. But we called up another defensive tackle, a guy who almost made the Vikings, and a guy who we liked enough to go get on our practice squad. So clearly somebody we have some respect for his game. We think he can play. And against a team like this Patriots team with Cam Newton and three capable running backs, I feel much more comfortable knowing we have four defensive tackles on our roster instead of just three. Presumably, Rush will take the spot of Rasheem Green, and we'll just go to more, um, you know, run heavy fronts. So I like that. Patriots injury report. They got two starters who are questionable, Butler and Copeland, two starters in their front seven. I expect them both to play. Edelman and Harry, who are their two best receivers, are questionable, but I expect both of them to play probably. Maybe they're not going to be as effective as usual, and if that's the case, then that's actually a significant blow. This Patriots front seven, already a little underwhelming. If you look at their front seven, you're not going to see a lot of name players. You're not going to see a lot of guys you go, oh, that guy's really good. I know that guy. He's done great things in his career. He's a fantastic player. You don't see that with this Patriots front seven. You know, Hightower was one of their big name guys. He's gone. So I'm not really seeing a ton with this Patriots front seven that intimidates me. And if Edelman and Harry are even slightly gimped, that cripples their already pretty lackluster wide receiver core. So right away, you can kind of see where this game is probably going to be headed. And that's certainly going to factor in what I'm going to say with the game plan. So I watched a little bit of the Patriots against the Dolphins last week. The Dolphins are going to be a subpar at best team this year, probably. Whatever you can learn from that game, what I learned was the Patriots offense seems pretty straightforward. I saw a lot of plays where Cam would just take off and run with the ball out of a shotgun formation, or he would lob the ball over the middle to Edelman. I saw a lot of plays that just basically followed that very simple formula. Cam makes one read. If Edelman's open, get him the ball. If Edelman's not open, take off. And obviously, it's not like they're doing that every play. They are going to have wrinkles in their offense, and they're going to be adding new wrinkles all the time. That's pretty obvious. But this offense, by and large, seems to be pretty remedial. And that's not to say that it's a bad thing or that it can't work. It kind of reminds me of the Redskins offense the year RG3 was a rookie, 2012. It was a very simple offense that worked on the most basic level, and in most games it actually worked very well. They got to the playoffs, and this kind of reminds me of that. So what I need to see from this defense is win the numbers game on the defensive line on most of the snaps, because we obviously have a little bit of a problem with our star power on the defensive line. We don't have guys who command a double team every snap. We have guys we like Jerron Reed. We know he's at least decent. We got good play out of Benson Mayowa last week, Bruce Irvin last week. We do have some guys who can line up on the defensive line that are good, but we don't have that one guy who's going to demand a double team. And if we cannot get our defensive linemen to command double teams, we have a problem in this game, because when Cam's taking off to run, the Patriots will have a numbers advantage that they usually don't have. That's one of the big reasons why teams like to have their quarterbacks take off. It's one more player who is involved in the play. It's one more guy who can be a blocker. And if our defensive line cannot demand double teams or get off their blocks, our linebackers are going to get blocked out of the games when Cam blocked out of the play when Cam takes off. Adams could get blocked out of the play, and it's just going to be a simple numbers game that the Patriots are going to keep winning. And that's how they can stay on the field, keep it to third down and manageable, keep it to second and manageable, and grind on our defense, get our defense tired, which is something that I'm really concerned about by the end of this game, and win a somewhat low scoring game. That to me is their most likely route to victory, and the way to stop it is simply force their offensive linemen to double team somebody on our defensive line, preferably Jerron Reed, maybe Poona Ford, but somebody has to take care of that numbers battle. Because if the Patriots get behind the sticks, second and long, third and long, it's going to be tough. They don't have a ton of talent at receiver or tight end. Their team is clearly built right now to run the football. They passed the ball on, I believe, one of their third downs last week. So if we can force them into must-pass situations with the score and with the down and distance, we have a very good chance to force turnovers and maybe take control of this game early and just close it out like that. So that's what I'm looking for from this defense. I have that minor concern of our defensive line not being able to eat up enough blockers to allow Wagner, Adams, Wright, maybe some Brooks to do their jobs. But if they do, this should be pretty rudimentary. As for our offense, this is kind of tough. This is kind of tough because I can look at this Patriots roster and I can tell you right now, as I just said, the Patriots front seven doesn't intimidate you as much as it usually does. They don't have a lot of studs. They don't have a lot of guys who have a lot of sacks in their career. They don't have a lot of guys who are known disruptors. They don't have a lot of great players in general. They're starting, I think, third round rookie Chase Winovich. They've got guys like, I think, Adam Butler starting, and he's had a pretty underwhelming career. They just don't have a lot of firepower up front. A lot of those players are a little older. They may be able to be outrun by younger players, which we have a decent number of, or at the very least players who aren't old and starting to slow down. And their secondary is obviously the strength of their team overall, or at the very least their defense, but probably their team overall. You know, the two McCourties and Adrian Phillips, I think, is actually a pretty talented player. He came over from San Diego or LA or whatever it is now. They have good players in that secondary, so the instinct will be to reverse from the game plan of last week against Atlanta, run the ball against a front seven that doesn't look like they're going to be able to hold up, and don't let the Patriots secondary influence this game. But I'll tell you right now, it feels like a little bit of a trap to me, and I don't want this team in this game to get away from what worked so well last week, because not only do we have a great quarterback, not only do we have some really good receivers, but the depth of our receivers right now is looking very good. It's not just one or two guys. Like, you know, just as an example, Bill Belichick, his defenses are famous for taking away what the other team uses the most. A good example would be when we played New England 4 years ago. Jimmy Graham, I don't think, had a single catch in that game, and they did a great job of taking him out of that game and making him a complete non-factor. But that allowed Doug Baldwin to have one of the best games of his career. So that just opens up other opportunities to do damage with other players. So there's a lot of good quality depth on this team right now in terms of their skill position players. We had multiple running backs play well last week. We had multiple tight ends make an impact. Multiple wide receivers had a positive impact as well. I want to see us test this Patriots defense using the breadth, the width of our many weapons on offense. Force them to try to stop everybody, and you know they're not going to be able to. Like, in this game, you may very well see DK Metcalf taken out of the game. Patriots defense may very well cook up some sort of game plan to make sure that DK Metcalf doesn't have a good game. He might only have one or two catches this whole game. They might sick Cedric Gilmore on him and just say take him out. They might double team him the whole game. They might put Gilmore on Lockett or excuse me, they might put Gilmore on Lockett and tell somebody and just double team Metcalf the whole game. They might do stuff like that, and there will be a temptation to fall into a trap of running the ball a bunch in this game. And I know we're going to run the ball more than we did against Atlanta. That's just something that makes sense to me. That's something that I do expect and I'm totally cool with. But we can't get too far into that, or else we will be taking away the best aspect of this team, and that is what we have right now in our passing attack. So definitely going to run the ball more than we did against Atlanta. I expect that. I'm prepared for it. But I don't know if that's going to actually win us the game, even if the running game goes well, because I've been over this before. When a run first attack gets behind the sticks because they had a tackle for loss or a penalty, it's very hard to overcome that. So I don't want to forget about what got us that W last week. And what got us the W last week was pass, pass, pass. So challenge that secondary. They're not going to be able to cover those guys for 10 seconds. And I don't see a ton with this Patriots pass rush that scares me. So I say continue to let Russ cook, and that's the best path to victory. But the number one thing that I'm worried about in this game is not any one particular player or one particular style or one particular thing. It's this overall feeling that this Patriots team, while they're not as talented as they're used to, and they're missing a lot of the players they're used to having, they're probably going to limit their mistakes. It reminds me a lot of the Saints game last year. The Saints came in with their backup quarterback. We knew we had more talent than the Saints in that game last year. We did. We had better players. We had our quarterback. They didn't. That alone makes that argument. But the Saints didn't make mistakes. They played within themselves. They did a good job avoiding turnovers until they were up by 3 touchdowns. They had the one fumble. We made all kinds of mistakes. Chris Carson fumbling, Chris Carson falling down, Chris Carson not picking up short yardage, not messing up the end of half situation, getting a 15-yard penalty on a missed Saints field goal. Just a really messy game, and we ended up losing that game in what was effectively a blowout, even though we scored 2 garbage time touchdowns. So kind of feels like that's how we lose this game if it happens again. The game just gets messy and ugly. We make a lot of mistakes. The Patriots don't, because the way to force this Patriots team into turnovers is to get ahead, force them to pass the ball. If we force the Patriots to pass the ball, we'll get some turnovers and some big plays on defense. If we don't, it's going to be hard. They're going to protect the ball, play a lot of ball control offense, and it's going to be close at the end at the very least. So limit the mistakes, focus on the details. Have close attention to detail tomorrow, and I'm very confident that we win this game. I will say that. Don't make the dumb mistakes. Let the talent be the thing that decides this game, and I think we will win. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. That was a good 15 minutes on this game. See you guys tomorrow after the game. Obviously, it's a night game, but same schedule as usual. Watch for me to go live after my post-game video goes up, and we'll talk about it. But I feel pretty good about this game. I'm not taking it for granted. Nothing's easy in this league, but I'm going to say if we do our thing out there tomorrow night, I think we win this game by multiple scores. Let's find out. All right. Peace out. Go Hawks. See you guys tonight in stream and tomorrow after the game.